It's the East Side Fantasy Football Podcast. Christian McCaffrey popped up in the injury report. The Bills just clinched a playoff appearance. Cam Akers and Allen Robinson are dead. Joe, football is back. It is Saturday, September 10th. We just had our first game. Tomorrow, we get our full slate of games. How are you feeling?
Oh my God. I'm feeling amazing, actually. Considering I have Daryl Henderson on my bench, that's just the first thing that makes me feel amazing. But football is back, like you said. Had a great Thursday night football. Have a great Sunday scheduled. I mean, it's episode 4 of the East Side Fantasy Football Podcast. Fantasy football is alive, and it's great to be back.
Shout out to me. I work. I do pre and post games for the Ravens on 98 Rock, the radio. And thank goodness I was scheduled for the post game this week, so I will be able to watch all the 1 o'clock slate before I go into work
Thank
at
goodness.
4. So big stuff for me there. My Ravens open up in New York against the Jets. Joe, your Commanders, they got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Is that at home or away?
That is at home.
Okay, well, we'll be
The
looking
first
out.
ever Commanders home game we played against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence comes to the Manders home field.
Can't think of a more electric week 1 matchup
I mean, it's
than
so
Manders
exciting.
and Jags. All right, you want
It's
to get
so
into the news,
exciting.
Joe?
Let's get into the news.
All right, go ahead and take the first one, Joe.
So George Kittle here has got dealing with a groin injury. It's been reported. He's uncertain for week 1. We haven't heard too much about the injury itself. I know he did not practice Friday
I don't
or
like how this
Thursday.
looks.
It's not looking good. I believe it popped up Thursday. Thursday at practice was the first day that I think it popped up, and
I thought
it's
I saw
not good.
Monday. This Monday, I thought.
Is that when it first happened? The first time I saw it was Thursday. The report that he wasn't
This
practicing.
Thursday? No, I think
Correct.
it happened Monday. Like, that's when it occurred. The injury, they said, occurred in Monday's practice session, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I
So-
know on ESPN formats he does not have a projection right now, and he did as of a couple days ago. So usually when that is trending down like this later in the week, that is not a good sign.
No, and just from his injury history, and let's just say the 49ers injury history, I
Yeah.
think they'll be pretty cautious. I don't think he's going to play, and even if he does, it'll be on a snap count. So George Kittle not looking good for week 1. Next, Ron Rivera said that we're going to give him the football in reference to Antonio Gibson when he was asked. We know Brian Robinson will not be playing for the first 4 weeks. It looks like it's Gibson's show. I will say Gibson was in an exact same role last year with McKissick getting work out of the backfield on third downs and pass catching opportunities. Gibson was good last year when he was given the ball, I think 16 or more times. The big problem, as we know, is the fumbles with Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it looks. It is a pretty favorable matchup, I believe, against Jacksonville. I don't think they're too great. They did improve. They spent a lot of money, but I don't think they're too great against the run.
Yeah, honestly, this is just coach speak. I mean, I hear basically every quote Ron Rivera says because I'm a Commanders fan. So I know that Ron Rivera just blows smoke all the time. I mean, he doesn't want to give Gibson the football. He wants to put Gibson back to return kicks if he could. Clearly, what we saw before the Brian Robinson incident. So I don't know. Gibson's going to be the guy for the first at least 4 weeks, and we'll see what happens there. All I know is if he fumbles week 1, Jonathan Williams may be the pickup of the week following Sunday. But there's not too much to get into besides that. Next little piece of news here, we got Lamar Jackson at a press conference. I think he slipped up a little bit here. I'll see what you have to think after I say the quote, but when he was asked about J.K. Dobbins and how he was doing, he was saying that J.K. Dobbins was getting better like day by day, but his quote is, hopefully he'll be out in a couple of weeks. What do you have to say about that? I mean, it sounds as if Lamar kind of slipped up and was saying that hopefully he'll be back out in the games in a couple weeks, but then again, what does Lamar know? Does he actually know like the day-to-day of the injury? What do you think?
I don't think... I think even if Dobbins, this is my thoughts as a Baltimore fan and fantasy-wise, even if Dobbins was going to play week 1, I was treating him a lot like Godwin, where you are not expecting full-on J.K. Dobbins for this first couple weeks. Even if he was playing this week, I think it would on a snap count. I mean, bringing in Kenyon Drake was a big telltale to that. They weren't happy. They cut, I believe, their 6th rounder, Tyler Beatty, might have been a 5th rounder, but they brought in running backs, And, Mike Davis is there. We know there's no Gus Edwards, but I think even if Dobbins was playing, you weren't expecting a full J.K. Dobbins week one. So nothing too crazy here. He's going to have to work his way back in. Speaking of Lamar, though, he did not reach a contract extension with the Ravens as of yesterday, which was the deadline. So he'll be playing on the 5th year for $20.3 million. As a Ravens fan, I don't really care. A lot of people like to make a big deal out of it. I just don't care. He's going to play football, and he's going to play his heart out this year because he's playing for a contract.
I think a deal will get done.
Yeah,
obviously
people
can't
who love
obviously
to make a
can't,
huge deal out of it are just they're looking for a storyline. There's no storyline here besides the fact that he just hasn't been paid yet. That's fine. I'm not pressed about it. He's playing football this year, isn't he?
Yeah. And one more question with the J.K. Dobbins thing. If J.K. doesn't play, are you comfortable subbing Mike Davis right in for that, or does Kenyon Drake kind of muddy up the waters? What do you think?
I think Mike Davis. If you had to go take a shot at a Ravens back for this weekend, and I heard this on a podcast earlier today, the ESPN one with Field Yates. Mike Davis, and it makes the most sense, is the play. He's been in the system longer, right? He signed in the offseason, not after being cut in camp like Drake. Also, Mike Davis is, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, but Kenyon Drake's known a little more for his pass catching, and we've talked about how the ball just does not get thrown to running backs in this offense since Lamar's been here. So I think Davis is the play. I think they'll be in a positive game script, a lot of running the football. You're just kind of hoping, if you're playing Mike Davis, you're hoping maybe a flex that he falls into the end zone. So I think Mike Davis is the dart throw for the Ravens backfield.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Kenyon Drake just getting there makes it a little shaky, so I think Mike Davis is definitely the guy. Getting to the next thing here, Chris Godwin not practicing and expecting the decision of playing Sunday in Dallas will be about a game-time decision. I mean, it's hard for fantasy because I know that's the Sunday night game, so unless you hear something definitive that, like, he's going to be out there, I don't see how you can play Chris Godwin. The Sunday night game makes it super difficult unless you have a Julio Jones or a Russell Gage on your bench as well, would be the ideal situation, but I don't see how you can play him.
Do you want to hear from the league resident of the Chris Godwin share?
I do.
Yeah, well, again, I said it like JK. I wasn't expecting Godwin to play. Even if Godwin was a full go here, I probably wasn't playing. I would not have played him just because I don't know what to expect from him. And I want to, he's ahead of schedule. And also being the Sunday night game, no chance. But that's why I drafted him. So he had drafted him as my 4th wide receiver. I don't expect him to be my 4th wide receiver by, middle of the season. But I took him because I had the depth and I was able to wait on him. So not terrible news here. I don't think if Chris Godwin was playing or does play, I don't think you can expect normal Chris Godwin numbers, but he will most likely not be in a lot of lineups, I think. And then finally, Ken Walker is likely to miss Monday Night Football. I believe they did say there was a shot at some point, but it does not look like he's playing. I think he's coming off a sports hernia.
Yeah, he hasn't been practicing either, and I don't think he's going to play.
So this seems to be Rashad Penny's backfield for Monday Night Football. We'll see how that goes. I think DJ Dallas can be a good daily play just because I think the Broncos will kick the shit out of the Seahawks. And with that negative game script, not saying that Penny can't catch the ball, but DJ Dallas would be next in line, I believe, in the pass catching role. So I still think Rashad Penny's a good start this week, but we'll see how that game goes as far as game script and how Russell Wilson looks playing his old team.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely excited for that Monday night matchup, considering I have Russ and Courtland Sutton, see what that connection's like. And we actually had a schedule change. This is a little addition to the news here for our league. We shuffled up the schedule because for the past couple years, it's actually been the same. We've been playing the same teams at the beginning of the season, and those teams are the same ones we double up at the end of the year. So we actually shuffled it up this year. So me and Testoni are actually playing against each other week 1.
Yeah, I'm 30 points down already.
Yeah, I had Stephon Diggs go Thursday evening, and why don't we get into that right now? Actually, let's get into the Thursday night recap.
All right.
You like that? You like that?
All right. So
yeah, you got it. Go ahead.
Final score 31-10. Buffalo beats down the defending champion.
Started off a little slow though, wouldn't you say? I mean, besides Buffalo's first drive, they scored, but then after that, we definitely hit a little lull.
I think it was a pretty sloppy game, to be honest. There
Yeah.
was a lot of turnovers. What did Stafford have? 3 picks?
I know, yeah, there was a lot of turnovers, and I know the Bills sacked Matthew Stafford 7 times.
Yeah, that offensive line looked bad. They've
That was
lost a couple
crazy.
guys, Whitworth being one of them, the veteran leader. But,
Yeah.
Allen had 2 picks, and one of them was not his fault.
Yeah, no, one of them was Isaiah McKenzie's fault for sure.
Two fumbles. James Cook is a huge, huge
he's gonna
candidate for getting
he's
dropped.
he's gonna want to forget his first ever NFL carry very
First
quickly.
touch comes off the right side and just loses the ball. And then they cut to like a view of him on the sideline saying I thought I was down. It wasn't even close. So
Uh,
James Cook, I actually have the snap shares here next to me. You can talk about Devin Singletary and Zach Moss a little bit. Singletary had 35 snaps, which was just about 60% of the snaps.
yeah, he was clearly the number one option. I mean, there was a slight rotation, but it was obvious that Singletary's the guy in Buffalo still.
Well, here's the thing. Zach Moss actually finished with more fantasy points than Singletary because of the receptions. He only
Yeah.
had 22 snaps at 37%. And then finishing out, James Cook had 3 snaps with 1 touch that led to a fumble. So James Cook, who is on a lot of my rosters, he might be on every single one of my rosters
Oh
just
my
because it was a
goodness.
lottery pick, late pick. Does not look like he's going to be involved, and the early fumble does not help. So James
Oh,
Cook, welcome to the waiver wire.
yeah. I mean, on the flip side, we can go to the other team now and go to LA and talk about the running backs. A guy that I have on literally every roster that I have, Daryl Henderson.
Oh,
13 for 47, so not the craziest like yards per carry, 3.6 average. He did have an 18-yard run as well, but Cam Akers.
well, hold on.
The
Before we get to this real quick,
Yeah, okay, good, good.
let me say Cam Akers, we talked about it, was a third round pick by
Third
Tyler
round. I
Campbell and
think it was like
Soups and Sammy's.
I think it was like 3.8 or something like
He
that.
was
Three.
started. He finished with 0.0 points. And if
It
you
was the talk
really,
of the group chat
it
for this
was
fantasy league, that's for sure.
as soon as the game started, Daryl Henderson went out
Daryl Henderson come
for the
jogging out
first
like a
snap, and
superstar.
I
First snap
said,
of the game.
please, someone go check on Soup and see if he's okay, because Daryl Henderson started, and Henderson pretty much finished it. I have 55 snaps. He had 82% of the workload back there,
I mean, I was
and
just laughing watching
12
this.
snaps for Cam Akers, under 18%. I think how much? What do you have? 3 carries, 3 touches
Yeah, 3 carries.
for
They're all
0
carries and for
yards.
0 yards.
Yeah, that did not
His
look
his
good.
longest play was 0.
Yeah, and he didn't look good. Now,
No,
I will say,
he didn't have
uh,
much help though. I will give him the
no,
benefit of the
the
doubt. He
Rams
didn't
O
get the
line
ball that
looked
much,
terrible.
but the offensive line every time, even sometimes Daryl Henderson got the ball, they were getting met at the line of scrimmage or behind it. So it's not like Cam Akers was like looking slow or looking bad, but I mean clearly he didn't seem 100%, and the offensive line wasn't helping. But clearly, Daryl Henderson was able to get the job done. I mean, if Daryl Henderson would have found the end zone for those who did start him, like in the fantasy community, which probably wasn't that many people, but if he would have found the end zone, I mean, he would have finished with like 18 fantasy points, which would have been just like how he started last year. Like I know he started the year last year with like 15 plus touches a game, probably like 70 plus ish like scrimmage yards, and was getting in the end zone. So he was putting up like 15 to 20 like for the first like 6 weeks until he got injured himself. So I'm not certain if this is going to continue. Obviously, for the time being, Daryl Henderson looks like the steal and Cam Akers looks like the dumb pick. We won't know that for sure, but it's definitely looking in a positive way for Daryl Henderson going forward.
Real quick, let's pivot to our league real quick. So Cam Akers probably becomes a big sit possibility for Soup and Sammy's next week.
Yeah,
They have Dalvin Cook as the
gotta be.
workhorse. On the bench, they have Miles Sanders and Michael Carter to pivot to. Not great options. I actually really like Michael Carter as a value early on the season. I don't think Brees Hall is going to be the workhorse. People forgot about Michael Carter. He was a very good fantasy option last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see where they pivot. Probably, maybe I mean, there's no way Cam Akers can be started next week, right?
No,
Like, I
not
don't
at
even
all.
know in any league.
There's no possible way.
Yeah, no confidence. Doesn't even matter if like McVay says we're gonna get him more involved. Like that did not look good. And I will say Akers was dealing with other injuries this just other nagging injuries this preseason besides the coming back from the Achilles, but
Yeah.
that was about as poorly as someone can just present themselves. He didn't look good when he ran. He got 0 yards and he barely played.
I'm
So
gonna throw a wrench into this real quick because I'm looking at who they're playing next week. Just to make it a maybe that Cam Akers would be started. This is funny because they're playing the Atlanta Falcons next week.
yeah,
So I mean, not that you want to start Cam Akers after what just happened this Thursday night, but if there's one of those like bottom feeder teams that you'd want to start a running back against, it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons this year. So I mean, obviously that doesn't tempt me. I don't have any shares of Cam Akers. That doesn't tempt me to start him at all. But it's kind of funny considering the running back for the Rams, whoever that will be next week, should have a lot of impact in the game.
well, the Rams will look to bounce back. Hopefully,
Yes.
that was not a good homecoming. Gabe Davis looked pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah,
And
he
I
did.
think that's kind of what you're going to get from him. He'll be. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who gets you 8 catches a game. I think that was like the perfect. He's going to be the big play guy. The first touchdown looked like just. I mean, early on, it kind of looked
Kind of a
like
broken play, but
every like guy was just biting for every like it was like their first time they played and like a lot of guys
yeah.
don't play preseason anymore, but like they were biting on everything. It was even the first Cooper Cup reception was like a guy uh bit on like a double move. So I mean, it was a nice play. He also had the long bomb later. Gabe Davis looked good. I think he finished with 18. I was playing him in another league, so I was playing him and Diggs. So
Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
pretty much hoping for
I know.
send him the ball, Buffalo.
I have Diggs in our league, and I know Jake Wills has Gabe Davis, so I'm sure he was very pleasantly surprised with that output. Because obviously, I mean, we saw how Gabe Davis ended the season in the playoffs last year. Obviously, that didn't have any fantasy effect because we weren't still playing. But Gabe Davis starting out with the 4 for 88 and 1 on week 1 of the NFL season, it's got to make Jake Wills feel good. And then I think that's just a great compliment to Stephon Diggs, who 8 for 122. I mean, they had that deep 53-yard touchdown. He was 8 with 9 targets, 8 receptions. I mean,
That was
yeah, I know
fucking
you're
horrendous.
shaking your head right now because I'm sure you
Well,
hated that. I was
he had
loving it because I
13
have Diggs.
points and like
Yeah,
it was terrible defense. I mean, I was just
yeah,
like, what are the Rams doing? And that ended up being a 17-point play thanks to our league where you get like a bonus because you
yeah.
caught a 40. You
We have
get
these
one extra point because you
bonuses.
caught a 40-yard touchdown. And then it was also plus 50. So give him two more. And he went over 100 yards. So throw him another point.
I mean, I love
So,
all that.
yeah.
Consider
So,
when it happens to your guy, you love it. When it's against you, you hate it. But I mean, Diggs and Cooper Cup both showed that like they're first round wide receivers for a reason. First round
yeah.
drafted for fantasy. I mean, Cooper Cup picked up right where he left off. 15 targets, 13 catches,
Stafford did
128
not look good.
yards.
I didn't
No,
like
he
how
did not.
Stafford
I
looked.
mean, it's crazy that the two the two times that Stafford and Cooper Cup didn't connect, it was Cooper Cup was open both times. Stafford missed him. Stafford overthrew him both times. One was actually tipped off his fingertips for an interception, and one was just sailed over his head. So I mean, Cooper Cup could have easily had 15 catches this game for I'd say what 145 yards maybe and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, it
it's not
was.
even that surprising though. Just throughout the game consistently, he gets peppered targets because he's open. I mean, it's simple as that. And Allen Robinson, I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Before we get to Allen Robinson, I just want to say Tyler Higby had maybe the most pathetic 9.9 points I've ever seen in my life. They were almost all garbage catches for like 8 to 9 yards. He had like two or three drops that were like right in his hands. I mean, he has value obviously because he's on this offense. He's the tight end, but that was 5 for 39, I believe, was what he finished with, and he didn't look good.
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, he looked terrible.
he had 11 targets, which is actually if you're a Tyler Higby manager, it's kind of a good thing to see that he had 11 targets. But I watched him drop at least two balls that hit him right in the hands, and yeah, I mean, first guy, he's not making anybody miss either. And speaking of receptions, Daryl Henderson had 5 receptions on 5 targets. That was great to see. I mean, Cam Akers didn't even have a target, let alone a reception.
No.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely trending towards Daryl Henderson way. But Allen Robinson, I don't know what to
Man,
say. I
that
really don't.
was. I
I
mean,
mean,
look, he had one catch for 12 yards, but I will say, I got to pull it up right here. Stephon Diggs played 38 snaps, or excuse me, sorry, I'm looking at the Bills. Allen Robinson played 65 snaps. Cooper Cup played 67. So Cooper Cup played every single snap, which means Robinson didn't play only on 2 snaps. He was out there. I just don't think maybe the
yeah,
connection's
that
not
is
there yet.
shocking.
No, he was out there. He played all but 2 offensive
He
snaps.
he was like he was a ghost. Like I
I didn't
honestly
even
I
know what
sent
number he was until the second quarter when I
I
saw his
didn't know
back during
either.
yeah.
I didn't know either. I did not know what was going on. I mean, like, I think I texted in our group chat, like, where's Allen Robinson? Because I didn't even know if he was literally on the field
Oh, he was
because
out there.
he wasn't even getting looked at. I mean, it was just
Oh.
Cooper Kupp every single play, which is awesome. I love Cooper Kupp to death. He's my favorite player in all of fantasy. I mean, yeah, we don't need to get into that. Most people listening to this are all our friends. They know how much I love Cooper Kupp, but the wide receiver 2 in LA should have so much more value than one reception for 12 yards.
Yeah. I
Just
think it gets
crazy.
better. I think it get better. There also
Yeah,
was I think there was a quote by McVay saying they need to get Allen Robinson involved more.
but
I mean,
but that's
they
that's
looked pretty
not a
one-dimensional
that's not a
offensively.
good sign for last year Allen Robinson managers. Like I'm one of those
Yeah,
people. I mean,
because
this
he
is
was out
how it
there a lot
started
last
last year.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was so
I don't know.
surprised when you just said that snap count because I hadn't looked at that yet, but I thought that he may have just been on certain packages and still trying to get him in there.
What was
But
his targets? He
two,
had
and I didn't even see
no,
the second
really?
target. Yeah,
Oh, there it is.
I
Two
only saw
targets.
the one target where he caught it for a
Yeah,
first down.
it was the last offensive play of the game. They threw it up in the end zone to him. It never had a chance. That was the only other target. So
Crazy.
who knows? It didn't look great. Like I said, he played a lot of snaps. He was out there, so I think it gets a little better.
Yeah,
Circling back real quick, I want to say the wide receiver 3 position in Buffalo is still up in the air, and I think it has a ton of value.
I think so too. Because whoever plays in that
Crowder
slot,
looked damn good. Crowder
whoever's
looked
going to
quick
play
as
in that
shit.
spot or that slot there is going to have some value. Because I kind of wish Isaiah McKenzie would just
And they kind of traded
get
back
out of
and
there.
forth.
Yeah, they were rotating through. I didn't like to see that at all.
Let me. You can talk second. I'll look at the snaps, but I will say they kind of finished even. Isaiah McKenzie had the touchdown, but I think
Yeah, Jameson
uh,
Crowder had 4 targets. Isaiah McKenzie had 3, and then Crowder had 3 catches. McKenzie had 2. But one other thing about the pass catchers, Dawson Knox was
oh, hold
also
on. Let me get
MIA.
to Knox. First of all, shout out to Dawson Knox. He got paid.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
4 years, 53.6 million before this game. 6th highest paid tight end, and I guess they're paying him to fucking block because he
I
didn't do
know.
a damn thing.
No, I mean, I'd like to know what the route numbers were of how many times, like when
I
Allen
was trying to
dropped
find
back,
that.
when he dropped back, how many times he was running routes because I know that's a big deal with tight ends. But I mean, he had 2 targets, and that was another guy that I didn't see the second target. I only saw the one catch for 5 yards in like
It was
late
early,
first.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was like mid to late first quarter, and I was like, oh, there's Dawson Knox finally getting involved because I know I had drafted him in one of my leagues.
1 for 5.
He
That's
wasn't starting because that was actually a deeper league where I actually had 2 tight ends. So I wasn't starting him, but I mean, I was wondering where the heck he was as well.
Snap counts, by the way, Isaiah McKenzie 26 to Jamison Crowder 18. So we'll
Yeah,
see. I think there's a lot of value there if one guy steps up.
I think
But yeah,
so too.
Dawson Knox did not look good.
And James Cook was apparently like, obviously, there's been a lot of hype on him being the
Oh,
receiving back. Zach Moss, 6 receptions for 21 yards, six for
okay. Let's
six.
not get back into James Cook. He's
Yeah,
gone.
that's
He's
all
being
right.
dropped. There's no
I
point
mean,
to
it was
even.
great. It was awesome. It was awesome just to have football back. I'm super happy. Um, I wasn't expecting this game to go the way that it did. I mean, the Rams had a little second quarter push where they scored all 10 of their points, and then, I mean, 3 goose eggs in all the other quarters. So Buffalo's clearly showed to be the better team in this game. Obviously, you never know. I mean, they could have the Super Bowl hangover that you hear about, but with the Rams, I don't know. It was great to have football back.
Yeah, I think Buffalo proves that they. I think Buffalo answered all the questions that we needed fantasy wise.
Oh yeah, for
Allen's
sure.
a stud, Diggs and
It wasn't really.
Davis. I mean, there's still, I guess, the question of the third wide receiver. Knox, I think you can hope it's better, but, have plans for another tight end. And then running back wise, I think it's Singletary.
Yep.
They just don't run the ball that much. And that was
No.
Singletary looked good.
Josh Allen
Yeah, he
runs, but that's
does.
about it. So I know Spano had to have been loving. I mean, I know he has Josh Allen.
Yeah, I
Josh
mean,
Allen ended up with
I was surprised with Devin Singletary. I thought he looked really good when he was running the ball. I mean, I
yeah,
can go find his stat line, but he looked good. But the problem is that the Bills love to, they get on these streaks where, it'll be like a quarter and a half, 2 quarters where they don't have a rushing attempt. Not Josh Allen. They
yeah.
just do not like to run the football that much. So that was pretty much what the takeaways were from Thursday Night Football. Like I said, the Bills, they got a lot of hype. I mean, like I said in the intro, they just clinched a playoff spot, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I mean, just for our league, I think everybody that started a player in this game, for the most part, except unless you're the Allen Robinson manager, Sam Smith, or the Cam Akers manager, Tyler Soup Campbell, everybody else was happy with the production they got. If you were playing against those two guys that I just mentioned, you were also happy. But if you were playing against guys like Cooper Kupp, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, I mean Gabe Davis, guys of the guys like that, you weren't too happy to be playing against them. But it wasn't something that you couldn't like that you weren't seeing, because I mean those are elite guys, except for Gabe Davis, he's still on the come up. But Thursday was just awesome overall. Having Stephon Diggs was very nice, and fantasy NFL having it all back was amazing. And I'm ready to get into Sunday.
Yeah. Do you want to go through the NFL games first or our games? We can get NFL first.
Let's go through quick NFL, kind of just see who we're liking to win. Then we'll get into our fantasy league like matchups.
Jamal Adams, I'm the best in the nation.
Okay. First game I got on the Saints Falcons. The Saints will be in Atlanta. A lot of stuff to look at when it comes to the passing attack of Atlanta, I think. You're looking at Kyle Pitts here, too. You're looking at Drake London, who I believe is questionable for this game. But the Saints are favored to win this game in Atlanta. We'll see Marcus Mariota. I think I lean Saints here.
Yeah, I mean,
I got
Alvin
Alvin
on the
Kamara
Saints
playing Atlanta, so I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope Alvin Kamara catches 3 balls for 18 yards and then sits on the bench, because Jameis has already thrown 6 touchdowns. But I think the Saints are going to win. I'm playing you, and you have Alvin Kamara. That's the only reason why I say that. I think Alvin Kamara is a great play this week playing against Atlanta.
Here we go, by the way. We got the Saints are 5.5-point favorites.
All right, so yeah. I lean Saints laying the points. I think that they can cover that. I mean, if you flash back to week 1 of Jameis in New Orleans last year, I mean, they rolled the Green Bay Packers. So if you see anything like that, they should have no problem covering that number against Atlanta.
Any other big names in here? I don't think Jameis Winston's being started a ton, but it'd be interesting to look at him.
Definitely looking
Michael
to see
Thomas.
Definitely looking to see who's going to be the guy week 1 in the wide receiver core for New Orleans.
Yeah.
I think Michael Thomas may be the only one.
Again.
I know he's questionable, but I think he may be the only one in our league that is in a starting lineup right now. So obviously, if he's not playing, then Chris Olave gets a lot more interesting. I'm not sure who has Chris Olave. I know Derek has Jarvis. But yeah, Saints here for me.
All right, next matchup I got 49ers at the Chicago Bears. The Niners are 7-point favorites headed to Chicago on the road. A lot of road favorites on this slate. Not a lot to say here. Chicago really isn't worth talking all much about. I mean, Cole Kmet, you hope. Darnell Mooney, they're kind of the saving grace for the passing attack of Chicago. San Francisco wise, you could see Trey Lance against not a very good team. So you're hoping Trey Lance puts together a nice performance in his first real start.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know he started a game last year, but that was because Jimmy G injury. This is them giving him the keys.
Yeah.
And letting him go.
I'm going to say something crazy. Justin Fields is going to have a better fantasy day than Trey Lance week 1. And God, I don't want to say that the Bears are going to win this game, but they're going to cover.
Oh, no.
They're going to cover.
I agree. The 49ers
this will be a close game. I'm telling you, this will be a close game, especially with George Kittle injury now. Trey Lance, I mean, I know that there's a lot of hype on the guy, and I know that they have great defense and great coaching staff.
Power rankings.
But yeah, I know.
That's crazy. I mean,
the guy that does the power rankings was on the sports DC Sports Junkies, a podcast that I listen to with their radio show, but I listen to the podcast version. And he came on there, and when I heard that he had the 49ers third, I was like, we haven't even seen Trey Lance throw 15 plus passes in a game. We haven't even seen him. We haven't even seen him be an NFL quarterback, and we're just ready to give him the keys to the Super Bowl already. They're going to the Super Bowl. I don't understand. I think Justin Fields is going to have a better day than Trey Lance. We need to mark this so we'll come back to this on Monday.
I'll mark it. I'll put it up on the big board. I will say this is the Bears' first appearance without Matt Nagy in years, so you got to love the Bears' chances.
Put this on the big board. Justin Fields, better fantasy output than Trey Lance week 1. Put it on the board.
It's up there.
I love that. I love that so much, and I think they're going to cover. I want to say they're going to win. They're a little.
That too.
I have
7 points is a lot at home.
They're going to win the
Soldier
game.
Field.
God.
Not Justin a good field.
Come on, Cole Kmet.
All right, that's I love the fire there. The
Yeah,
next
that
game we
got me
head to
fired up. I'm tired of this Trey Lance, Trey Lance, that. He hasn't done anything yet.
the next game we head to is a little division rivalry. Down the defending AFC champions against the Pittsburgh
Oh my
Steelers.
goodness.
The Bengals are favored. I think the Bengals put a whooping on the Steelers. And that's not just me. Look, do I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers? You're goddamn right I do.
Oh,
But
of
guess
course you
what?
do.
I hate the Cincinnati Bungles just as
Yeah.
much. So I don't give a shit. All right.
See,
There's no favoritism here. I think the Bengals, they're 6.5 point favorites at home. I think they cover easily and they
oh, I'm
whoop
with
them.
you. I'm with you on this, and I don't hate either one of them. They're not in my division for my fandom, but I think that the Bengals are going to have zero problem. I mean, if you look back to last year, I know Joe Mixon. I mean, I could look at it right now. I know Joe Mixon put a beating on the Pittsburgh Steelers both games last year, I believe. Um, 28 for 165 and 2 touchdowns. That's 33 fantasy points and 18 for 90. So that's not crazy. No touchdown. I mean, if he gets in the end zone, that's a good day. A second time against Pittsburgh, but they were able to run on Pittsburgh last year, both games. And I
Yeah.
think Cincinnati is just since there's not that much talk about Cincinnati being just a good team this year in general. Like I know that they kind of like not snuck their way to the Super Bowl, but they definitely were under the radar the entire season. And I don't see why. I mean, the Bengals and the Ravens are going to fight for this division, and I'm
Yeah.
excited for that.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And Pittsburgh's got everybody off the injury report. So Deontay Johnson's a full go. We know that Mitch Trubisky's starting. Najee Harris not on the report, despite the Liz Frank talk from the preseason. So Pittsburgh's full go with everyone they got. The Bengals, their injury report is a couple backup tight ends and a wide receiver you've never heard of named Trent Taylor. So nothing really injury wise to talk about in this. You want to go to the next matchup?
Oh yeah.
All right, this one I kind of like. If you wanted to get on your high horse
Oh
for the
goodness.
Chicago Bears, guess what?
Let me
You
hear
know
it.
what? Maybe it's because I have DeAndre Swift. Maybe it's because I love Dan Campbell. Maybe it's because I like watching Hard Knocks. But
Frick
the
the
Detroit
Eagles.
Lions are 4.5 point dogs at home against the Eagles. Eagles are getting a ton of love because they added AJ Brown. I don't give a shit. They don't throw the fucking ball. So you know what? I love the Lions to cover
Hell
here,
yeah.
plus 4.5.
I'm actually
It's
surprised the line's not bigger. Like I'm with you. Like I hope the Eagles don't cover this. And I mean,
You're not a Birds fan.
I'm not 100% with you that the Lions are going to be like in this game 100%. I'm surprised the line's not bigger, to be honest. I think Philly should be favored by more, which would make me like the Lions more. But
Yeah.
at the number that it's at right now, it's kind of a toss up because I think the Eagles will win. But I
You're
hope you're
telling me
right.
Detroit can't lose by a field goal at home?
I think they definitely can. I mean, they're
Yeah,
going to
you're
fight
damn
hard.
right
I
they
mean,
can.
you know what it is. The
I'm not
hard
putting
knocks
anything on the
bump.
board. I'm
It's
not
the
putting
hard
anything
knocks
on the board
bump.
here.
Well, Justin
But
Fields is on the board. Don't get
yeah,
me
I know
fired up
he is. I
again.
know he is. Injury report, nothing really to talk about here. Everyone's a go. Miles Sanders is off it.
Yeah, not much
Uh,
going on
we'll
in
see
this
what AJ
game in
Brown
general,
looks
to be
like
honest.
in his first
Yeah,
game. Let's see if he'll get the
probably look like poop.
targets. Devonta Smith will be out there for the Lions. I want to see, you know who, Mr. Swift, put the team on his back and
Oh, I
run
was not sure who you
down.
were going to say there for a second. I forgot you have DeAndre Swift.
You're damn right I do. He was my first round pick. I want to see
Yep.
him run all over that Philly defense, for all accounts, apparently looks better, but I think it's more the secondary than the up front. So we'll see. I think even a negative game script for the Lions is still good for Swift. We'll see Amon-Ra
Oh
St.
yeah, definitely
Brown in
is.
his second year.
I think Soup might shed literal tears if Miles Sanders puts up like 25 points against the Lions this week,
That
considering
happens.
he's on his bench. It's not going to happen. Miles Sanders is not somebody I'm looking to start even against the Lions because
No.
it's so. But
Yeah. So
just saying,
I got a question for you. Out of these three guys, who do you think has the best chance of scoring a rushing touchdown?
not
Not
AJ
named
Brown.
Jalen Hurts.
Oh, you said rushing, anyways.
Yeah, not name Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, and
Boston
Miles
Scott.
Sanders.
Yeah,
Boston
Boston
Scott,
Scott.
put it
Of
down. All right.
course.
So that's in Philly. Let's hit one more before we take a break.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots are going to Miami. This one pretty close. 3.5 point favorites is Miami at home. Usually you get the 3 for being at home, so you could equate it to a half
Yeah, I think
point.
that means
They
I
see
think
these
that just
teams pretty
means
equal.
the public's on the Dolphins slightly. I think that's because we haven't heard anything good about New England like throughout this offseason or
No,
throughout
they
preseason.
got Matt Patricia calling offensive plays.
I know, but you know what the Patriots usually do though?
They don't play well in
They usually beat
Miami.
the shit. They usually. Well, you don't think so?
Go back and look at Tom Brady. He lost so many games in Miami.
Well, this is Mac Jones, and I
Okay.
think that they're going to beat the Dolphins come Sunday.
Okay.
I may be wrong about the past because I don't remember. I remember the Miami Miracle, that's for sure.
Soup gets to see Tyreek for the
Was that
first
Kenyon
time.
Drake?
I believe so.
Why do I think that was Kenyon Drake
I
that
know Rob
scored at the end of the
Gronkowski.
Miami Miracle?
I think it was. I think
That was
Rob
a bad
Gronkowski was
angle
playing
by
safety.
Big Rob.
Yeah, he was playing safety at that point.
I think
Yes.
the Patriots are going to win, though. I mean, I think the two-headed running back monster. I mean, obviously Tyreek Hill and that offense is going to be electric, or we're hoping it's going to be electric with the Dolphins. But I think that the Patriots are going to be able to control this game, and I think the defense for New England is going to be able to lock down. Usually with the Patriots in years past, the number one guy on like the opposing team usually gets shut down for the most part. I think they're going to double up Tyreek. I think this is a good Jalen Waddle PPR game. Tyreek might not have a crazy yardage game. I mean, obviously Tyreek's Tyreek, so that's hard to say. But long story short, I'm kind of rambling. I like the Patriots overall in this game.
Yeah, if I was going to go with something here, I think I'd go with the Dolphins money line. They're minus 190. I don't think I'd take the spread on this game just because we're seeing two for the first time with his weapons. Tyler Campbell Soup gets to see Tyreek in a Dolphins uniform for the first time.
Tyreek.
And I believe Andy doubled down on Jalen Waddle. He had him last year.
I'm excited to see what Chase Edmonds has because I have Chase Edmonds as my
RB2. Will be back
RB2.
in. So, yes, Jalen Waddle is in the flex currently for Papa Kamish. So
I
he'll
like Jalen Waddle a lot this week.
He helped him take him to a championship. Now he is off the injury report as well. Not a lot to talk about injury-wise for this game. Jacoby Myers, if anyone's targeting him, is questionable. Ty Montgomery, fantasy legend, is questionable for the Patriots.
Oh, God.
And then as far as the Miami Dolphins go, no one to talk about except for a Soup. He gets brought up a lot on this for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah, I know he does.
a Tyler Campbell legend. Salvan Ahmed is questionable.
Gross.
If you remember him in his streamer days.
He's like the sixth running back on the Dolphins.
Yep. So let's hit a quick break before we go into the next slate of games, and after the break, we'll get the rest of the games and we'll preview our fantasy matchups.